Today, I'm here to talk about the remarkable journey of the world's most threatened species of marine mammal, the vaquita. The vaquita is the world's tiniest porpoise, reaching at the largest about 1.5 meter or 45 kilograms, which is about 5 feet or 100 pounds. This animal is the most critically endangered of the 119 marine mammal species that call our oceans home, largely due to illegal fishing practices that have been ongoing for decades. Vaquitas are remarkably located in just one upper section of the Gulf of California in Mexico. The blue region represents the natural range of the vaquita, and the green line represents the Biosphere Nature Reserve that was established in the upper Gulf of California in 1993. This red line is very important as it represents the gillnet exclusion zone that was established by the Mexican government in 2015, banning all gillnets. Due to these illegal fishing practices, the vaquita populations have dwindled in numbers from 567 individuals in 1997 to around 6 to 8 individuals in 2024. 15 would be optimistic. As stated previously, these numbers are not at all what they used to be. In 1997, there were an estimated 567 living individuals in the vaquita population, which dropped to around 200 by 2012. This led to an even more dramatic decrease to around 50 individuals in 2015, at the time of the gillnet banning, in the start of the study shown below. I found this visual from the study most striking as it displayed a red curve quantifying the probability of there being less than 10 living individuals remaining during each of the forecasted years in the graph. By this year, 2025, it is almost certain by this study's results that the population has dwindled down to that 6 to 8 number, if not lower. Depicted here is a picture of the Totoaba macdonaldi, a species of fish endemic to the Gulf of California. These fish are so heavily sought after due to the value of their swim bladders, shown here. Due to the traditional practices and beliefs, these swim bladder, otherwise known as fish maws or cocaine of the sea, can fetch prices of up to 50,000 US dollars. They are believed to have many health benefits that promote vitality and longevity, and it can also be seen as a status symbol. Gillnets are the primary mode of catching these fish, and the most overarching problem of this study is that these gillnets are also the perfect size to catch vaquita. Once vaquita become stuck in these nets, being marine mammals, they cannot come up for air and often drown. These are thought to be the number one reason for the declining vaquita population. If you look to the bottom right corner, you can see a study on the components of Totoaba swim bladder collagen, and it was discovered in a 2023 study to be very similar to type 1 collagen. This makes the claims of vitality and longevity more valid, as collagen is known for its anti-aging properties. What I also find frustrating is how the fishing culture in this area used to be dominated by sustenance fishers that were providing for their family with the Totoaba, but now the poachers dominate the waters, decimating wildlife other than vaquita as well. They take the Totoaba from the gillnets, cut out its bladder, and throw the fish carcass back into the water, which is not sustainable fishing. The Sea Shepherd is a global nonprofit dedicated to protecting marine wildlife, intercepting poachers, and exposing inhumane practices that are plaguing our waters. Sea Shepherd is so important as they are one of the primary players out there currently in the Gulf of California, actively working with the Mexican government and the Navy to deter poachers and save wildlife by retrieving illegal gillnets from the waters. Sea Shepherd volunteers come from all walks of life, and every skill is useful to them. They are made up of people from naval, STEM, business, philanthropy, and even military backgrounds. Volunteers go out to places like the Vaquita Refuge in Mexico to help assist in the mission of the Sea Shepherd. They have worked in places like the Arctic to monitor krill fishing, the Faroe Islands to monitor whaling, the Mediterranean, and the waters around the Galapagos Islands. It is incredibly dangerous work, and this is usually the reason that they bring along members of the Mexican military or Navy with them. This is due to poachers often working with the Mexican cartel to smuggle these swim bladders across borders and into airports to deliver their products to their target destination in China. Poachers often attack the vessels with rocks to try and pester the activists aboard the Sea Shepherd. Seen here is a picture of a rock being thrown through the window of one of the Sea Shepherd ships, and plenty of Mexican ships called pongos chasing the ship, trying to deter them from doing their job. Even when met with an interpreter sometimes trying to explain the situation, the crew members were often met with quick hostility from the poachers. The culture in the area. This entire region used to be dominated by sustenance fishing. These fishers only sought as much food as they could need to feed their families. Now the waters are dominated by poachers that do not respect the fish and mutilate their bodies and dispose of them to exploit them of their swim bladders. Fishers in the community that practice legal fishing are extremely upset with how the rules in place really just hurt the legal fishers, and the illegal fishers continue to profit from it. The local leader of a group of fishing cooperatives in a town on the Gulf of California called San Felipe said this about the situation. We are between a rock and a hard place, between organized crime and the problems derived from legal activities in the area, and pressure towards the commercial fishing sector by the government. Those most affected are our fishing organizations that stick to the rules. Those who benefit the most are the illegal fishers. This is likely the reason that many are resorting to doing business with the cartel to poach totoaba and make the most money. The money a fisher can make from a single totoaba swim bladder could rival the salary that he makes in a couple months of legal fishing. Fishing totoaba is a strong aspect of culture in towns around the waters, normally without the poaching, and is likely something that will not go away very soon. Kimbra is another method of fishing used in the area, even by poachers. It is a less invasive method as it does not cause any death by bycatch, and it tends to catch larger totoaba, just fewer of them. Mexican cartels. Organized crime is the fifth largest employer in Mexico. On the Transparency International's Corruption Perceptions Index, Mexico ranked 26 out of 100, with 0 being the most corrupt. This just points to the strong influence that the cartel and other organized crime has on the nation and the government, causing such corruption. Totoaba has become such an important illegal trade in the country that Mexican nationals have partnered with Chinese nationals to form the Dragon Cartel, a crime network dedicated to the illegal movement of smuggled totoaba across borders and through airports, eventually getting to China. Cartels are making a large amount of money from these totoaba, so it is in their best interest that they continue to be farmed. This is what makes it such a dangerous job for the Mexican Navy and for organizations like Sea Shepherd, and why it is so admirable of those volunteers to even step foot on that ship, simply out of admiration for the animals. No more gill nets! Captivity. If the vaquita is so endangered, couldn't they just be captured and protected to ensure that the species does not go extinct? Sadly, no. The last attempt to capture vaquita was in 2018 when the International Committee for the Recovery of the Vaquita, or CURVA, was tasked with capturing vaquitas to keep them safe in a gillnet-free sanctuary in the Gulf of California. This was attempted with the first vaquita found, which happened to be a mother and her calf. These two were caught, but the mother died on the same day of transport. This caused the organization to subsequently release the calf. There is not a single vaquita in captivity anywhere on the planet, and their death in the wild will mean an end to their species. Many animals, when caught, experience such stress in these capture moments that they just simply die due to the increased loads of stress on their bodies. This is what likely happens to the vaquita mother when she died. A loss of a breeding vaquita is also terrible as they are quite needed, especially when they only produce every other year, and each one makes a massive difference in their hopeful recovery. Genetics. Vaquitas very much have an advantage in their possible recovery. It would be imagined that even if gillnet fishing stopped, wouldn't the vaquita population of under 10 individuals become incredibly inbred as they started mating? Vaquitas are very used to having limited gene pools. The population has been able to survive at these levels for a long time, so it is possible. It is estimated that they have been fine in these conditions for a surplus of 200,000 years. UCLA researchers have even discovered that vaquitas are not as negatively impacted by inbreeding as other species are, and they would be in a possibly prime condition to bounce back if gill nets were to be completely eliminated. A study by Robinson et al. Sequenced and examined 20 vaquita genomes to determine their heterozygosity and ancestral population size. The results showed 1,000 years of stable genomic diversity. Despite the grim statistics surrounding the vaquita, marine mammal species have been able to bounce back from the brink of extinction in years past, such as the northern elephant seal and the North Atlantic gray whale. Here I'll propose some options that need to be taken place to be able to help the vaquita survive. The primary and only key to unlocking this miracle that would be required is by completely eliminating the use of gill nets in the upper Gulf of California. This would involve the Mexican government becoming more involved than they already are in enforcing these gill net exclusion zones. The Mexican Navy in recent years has come up with the idea of sinking concrete blocks with long metal hooks protruding out of them. This creates an area where gill nets cannot be hung, as they will get tangled up, and it creates a de facto sanctuary for the vaquita to not be encountered with gill nets. This seems to be a cost-effective way that the Mexican Navy has come up with to combat the problem. However, they will need to make a bigger impact in future years to be able to help the vaquita truly survive. My next idea, with Mexico receiving a score of 26 out of 100 on Transparency International's Corruption Perceptions Index, it is very possible that Mexican cartel sentiments could be made clear to the Mexican government to ensure that the Totoaba swim bladder continues to be harvested. It is sad, but it is unfortunately the truth. That's why if the Mexican government does not step it up with enforcement, it will be up to direct action conservation groups such as Sea Shepherd to try and save the vaquita, as time is slowly running out for them. I would argue that a proper course of action would be for World Wildlife Fund or some other large wildlife conservation organization to step up and fund more vessels or programs like Sea Shepherd to go out to this area to try and enforce the rules. Honestly, even the US could lend a hand in this area for a time being to ensure protection of this species, as species protection is a global issue, not a singular country's issue. Another option to really fight back against the use of gill nets and the loss of vaquita in the Gulf of California would be to incentivize legal fishing. Obviously, the fishermen around this area have to feed their families, and it is very tempting to switch jobs when your buddies are making 10 times what you make in a day and possibly working even less than you, but their job is illegal. If the Mexican government could provide stimulus packages to fishers that prove that they were fishing legally only, then it could be an incentive to fish legally and help protect the vaquitas to be able to enjoy them for future generations. The fourth and final idea from my research, and the most realistic option to try and implement, would be to switch the culture of fishing practices from using gill nets to using kimbra, as mentioned before. Kimbra is a fishing practice utilized by some Mexican fishermen, even poachers, to fish for totoaba by setting up a singular line with many hooks along the line. As one Mexican poacher stated, it even allowed him to catch even larger totoaba than he would have with gill nets. This allows for the totoaba practice to continue going, which will make the cartel not get involved or mad, and it will help protect the vaquita from gill net deaths. It will be hard to get fishermen who have fished one way their entire lives to switch overnight, but it is also easier than banning the fishing of totoaba, as this fish has been a part of the Gulf of California culture for many of these coastal towns for a long time. Likely it would take a lot of time, but it makes a lot of sense to try and implement these changes. The loss of the vaquita would represent a tragic loss of diversity in the Gulf of California, robbing an ecosystem of a predator distinctly adapted to its environment. Calves have been seen as recently as 2023, which brings a glimmer of hope for the vaquita. Organizations like Sea Shepherd and CONOB need to keep the pedal down on enforcement in order to make enough progress in time to save the legendary vaquita.